hadn't seen somewhere else, or at least you hadn't heard me comment on it yet. Yes, it is I, the Nomad, coming to you live. I hope that you're all having a good day. We got lots of news to get over. Let's get started with it right now. UK forces may be deployed on the ground in Gaza to deliver aid. British troops will now join Hamas. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, British troops will be deployed on the ground in Gaza to help deliver aid via a new sea route the BBC has learned. The U.S. said no American forces would go ashore, and an unnamed third party would drive trucks along a floating causeway onto the beach. The UK is understood to be considering tasking British troops with this and when the aid corridor opens next month. Whitehall sources said no decision has been made, and the issue has not yet crossed the Prime Minister's desk. Okay. There is no aid to the refugees. There is no aid going to civilians. Any aid that goes out is going to Hamas. Anybody who comes back and goes, oh no, people are starving, don't you understand? No, man, people are really starving and everything else. Every single one of them could be somewhere else. Every single one of them are either being used as hostages or are proud to be quote unquote Hamas supporters. Every single one of them. We shouldn't give these guys a bite. We shouldn't give these guys a dime. We shouldn't give these guys anything. Until you start to understand that the problem is their culture and their unwillingness to change their culture and act like civilized human beings, until you get that through your head, this problem's going to continue. The problem will continue year after year after year. I really don't understand. I truly do not understand how people can't get it through their heads of what the hell they're dealing with here. And for people like Jeremy and Quarterine and people like Aiden Paladin, you guys just don't get it. You guys come back and go, well, I don't want America to be involved in this stuff, and we shouldn't be involved in this. And we got involved in it, and that's why we're... No. You sit up, you see, you guys keep talking shit because you don't understand. When you look at 9/11, who do you think perpetrated 9/11? Well, there were some Saudis and some other nationals. It's the same group, folks. They're all the same. They all have the same 12th century mentality. You guys are. It's not just a religion. There's a religious aspect of it which allows them to continue. Okay, which is being used to keep them subservient. But it's being used by the very people that get decried all the other peaceful people over there. No, man, don't you understand? No. What you don't understand, I understand them. I understand what these people are like. No, it's sad when children die. It's sad when people who are just trying to actually be peaceful get killed. All right, but there's two things about that. One, how else are you going to avoid it? They're trying to avoid those kind of casualties, and yet they're still being called, oh, it's a genocide! It's a genocide! And you, Jeremy, and you, Aiden Paladin, how many times have you come back and said, stop with the genocide crap? It isn't a genocide. It's not even close to a genocide. And you all know it, but instead of confronting those people, saying, you don't know what a real genocide is, what do you mean it's a genocide? Why are you comparing two separate things? No. See, you don't want conflict. You don't want to have to be, I just want peace there. La, 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 la. You expecting Papa Smurf to show up? That's what Frost me with these people. There is no Papa Smurf in the background that's going to come up and magically fix this. He can be done. No, there is no freaking magical Aladdin's genie that's going to come up and fix this. These people have to change their culture, and like it or not, the only way that they are going to be changing it is if they freaking surrender and realize we did wrong and accept it. Meanwhile, you have this going on. Oh, this will terrify them. Boy, howdy, this will work. Blinken, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken tells CNN the U.S. has seen evidence of China attempting to influence the upcoming U.S. elections. Oh, okay, so it isn't the Russian collusion now. Now it's going to be Chinese collusion. Somehow Trump's going to be called, saying that he's colluded. China has been interfering with the elections for freaking decades. We have money trails. We have flipping money trails going into the DNC and specifically into the Clinton campaign. All right, and you guys are like, oh, what about this? Really, Anthony? Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said the U.S. has seen evidence of Chinese attempts to influence and arguably interfere with the upcoming elections, despite an earlier commitment from leader Xi Jinping not to do so. Blinken made the comments to CNN's Kylie Atwood in an interview. No, he sat up there and had a meeting. Joe Biden had a meeting with Xi Jinping, and he promised not to. He promised not to interfere with your elections. Hey, I'm just curious. I'm just curious. During that meeting, did they discuss how they were going to sit up there and try to blame this all on Trump? Did President Biden, who has been in the pocket of these assholes for decades, we got money trails straight to the Chinese communists. It makes you wonder if whether or not Biden stood up there and talked to Xi Jinping and said, "Hey, make it look like you're helping out Trump. Here's how we're gonna do it, right? Get some of your lackeys, some of your toadies, your throwaway toadies, all right, and then funnel a bunch of money to the Trump campaign, and then we're gonna sit up there and out these people as they flee back to China. Yeah. We'll do it like that. Anybody believe that that's not beyond the pale of this man? I'm not saying that is going to happen, all right? But this is one of the more stupid statements that you can do. Here's another stupid statement. Suddenly, Chinese spies seem to be popping up all over Europe. One of the men, a young Briton known for his hawkish views on China, worked as an aide to a prominent member of the British Parliament. Another, a German citizen of Chinese descent, was an assistant to the member of the European Parliament representing Germany's far right. While from different countries and seemingly divergent backgrounds and outlooks, both men became ensnared this week in accusations of espionage on behalf of China and a widening pushback in Europe against the malign Chinese influence in politics and commerce. Really? Really? I wonder how all that works. Can anybody believe this crap? Can anybody believe this? Here's another one. Putin didn't directly order Alexei Navalny's February death, a U.S. spy agency find. Alexei Navalny's February death in an Arctic penal colony prompted a new wave of sanctions targeting Russia's economy, upended delicate negotiations to exchange prisoners between Russia and the West, and left Russia's limited opposition in disarray. Russian President Vladimir Putin might not have planned it to happen when it did. U.S. intelligence agencies have determined that Putin likely didn't order Navalny to be killed at the notorious brutal prison camp in February. People familiar with the matter said a finding that deepens the mystery about the circumstances of his death. Because just beating somebody daily, you don't know what time of death. If you just tell somebody, yeah, just beat him daily, we don't know exactly the day he's gonna die, but sooner or later, well, he'll die of natural causes. I would love to. uh, Wall Street Journal, whoever you have as a quote unquote informant in the quote unquote U.S. intelligence agencies, you need to find somebody new. You need to take him. You need to stop paying him. You need to stop paying this son of a bitch. Oh my God. Putin didn't have to be the one ordering the exact day of death. It's very possible they just beat him and kept beating him and kept beating him, which they did. They obviously were doing that. All right, until he died. Oh. And I'll tell you what's more is that people when they go to those jails, they're freaking beaten anyway. Uh, President Biden and other world leaders have held Putin ultimately at fault for based on years of Kremlin targeting Navalny. All right, and including an alleged attempted assassination of him in 2020. All right, and sending him to a remote gulag. Make no mistake, Putin is responsible for Navalny's death. Biden said after a world learned of his death. It's stupid. It's stupid. Those who assert that Putin wasn't aware clearly do not understand anything about how modern day Russia runs. All right, the idea of Putin being not informed, all right, and not approving of killing Navalny is ridiculous," said Leonid Volkov, a longtime Navalny ally. Uh, you can't make this stuff up, folks. You can't make this stuff up. Of course, he was beaten to death. Now, having said all that, I want something else to be quite understood. Okay, the problem with people like Navalny is he wasn't a good guy either. He was corrupt. He wasn't this democracy guy. Okay, I want people to understand that there are no good guys. There's no good players in this region. You have to understand that. If you're truly going to understand what's going on, then you have to understand there's going to be dirt on whoever comes out in the next struggle for power in Russia. Okay, whoever comes out is not going to come out pristine. It's not going to be somebody going, "Oh, I'm like Lech Walesa, and I'm going to sit up there and cheer la 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 la." It's not going to happen that way. Lech Walesa was considered a hero, for those who don't know, of the solidarity movement in Poland that helped bring down the Soviet Union. But when he took over, when his group took charge, they weren't a whole lot better. No, they weren't Russians and they weren't arresting people left and right, but they did try to censor people. They did try to stomp down on freedom of speech while he was in charge, because you've got to be a hard individual. All right. There are not many people like George Washington. All right. And this has to be understood. There's not many people like Scipio Africanus. There's very few people who, at the height of their power, when everything is being offered to them, say, no, I'm just walking away. I don't want to be part of this government cabal. I'm here only to save the nation. They had to force George Washington to run for the first president. Now, granted, that had to happen, but the reason George Washington even agreed to that, they even tried to say initially, they were like, hey, we can make you king. And he was like, get out of here. George Washington didn't want to come back. He was forced to come back. And the reason simply that he came back is he realized that without his name, there were groups that respected him and would listen to him, but wouldn't listen to the other side. So he tried to make it so that the other side had a voice. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Scipio Africanus was basically offered to be a proconsul for life after defeating Hannibal. He said no and walked away, went back to his little farm, and he didn't want anything to do with Roman politics anymore. There's very few men like that. Lech Walesa, once he took over, was like, yeah, now I can be in charge, and I can put it my way, and I can do things my way. Now, Poland has gotten better. Poland succeeded in its revolution. It took them a long time. But most of the time, it ends up like this. From the Wall Street Journal. Haiti's police outmanned in their struggle to thwart gangs. Haiti's national police, the last visible semblance of a state in a country where gangs have killed and uprooted thousands from their homes, have ceded control over most of the nation's capital, save for the vacant presidential palace, all right, the international airport, and the central bank. For weeks, a functioning government hasn't existed in the country of 11 million, with the 11,000 member force only able to hold on for about 2 more months without foreign assistance, a senior administrator estimated in an interview with the Wall Street Journal. We are at the breaking point, the official said. Right? Little, little involvement is expected soon on the streets of Port-au-Prince, even though a new 9-member transitional council was sworn in Thursday with a mandate to complete the U.S. funded deployment of U.S. funded deployment of 11,000 Kenyan officers to provide security against the estimated 300 gangs in the country. The council also find a long the council would also find a long-term replacement for Prime Minister Ariel Henry, right, who resigned after nearly 3 years of spiraling violence. So the $1 billion of aid from the Clinton Foundation didn't fix anything. All right. Do you want to fix Haiti, or don't you want to fix Haiti? Serious question. You want to fix Haiti, or don't you want to fix Haiti? How are you going to fix it? How are you going to fix it? Jeremy, Aiden Paladin. How are you going to fix Haiti? You don't have a solution, do you? Because the solution would be total takeover of the government, total takeover of these areas, and imposition, okay? And it would have to be imposed upon them for decades of rule by a foreign power. That's the only way it's going to get fixed. Don't like it, but that's just the only way it's going to get fixed. To where it becomes stable for the average person to go down there. Otherwise, the gangs are going to rule it. It's the narco state. This, by the way, is what's headed for Mexico. This is what Mexico will be like in a few years. That's my biggest fear. I honestly think that. Meanwhile, what do we have going on here? Anti-war protesters dig in on some school closed as some school closed encampments after reports of anti-Semitic activity. As as students protesting the Israel-Hamas war at universities across the U.S. dug in Saturday and vowed to keep up their demonstrations, some universities moved to shut down encampments after reports of anti-Semitic activity among the protesters. With the death toll mounting in the war in Gaza, protesters nationwide are demanding that schools cut financial ties to Israel and divest from companies they say are enabling the conflict. Some Jewish students say protesters have veered into anti Semitism and made them afraid to set foot on campus. Early Saturday, police in riot gear cleared an encampment on the campus of Northeastern University in Boston, while several students shouted and booed at them from a distance. But the scene was otherwise not confrontational. The school said in a statement that the demonstration, which began 2 days ago, had become infiltrated with professional organizers. Really, with no affiliation to the school, and anti Semitic slurs, including kill the Jews, had been used by the protesters. We cannot tolerate this kind of hate on our campus, a statement posted on social media, Twitter said. The Northeastern University. Of course, in the University of Pennsylvania, took similar action Friday when interim president J. Larry Jameson, J.J. Emerson, that's J.L.A. Little Spider-Man reference there for you folks. Called for an encampment of protesters on the West Philadelphia campus to be disbanded, saying that it violates the university's facilities policies, though about 40 tents remained in place Saturday morning. The harassing, intimidating comments and actions by some protesters violates the school's open expression guidelines as well as the state and federal law, Jameson said. And vandalism of a statue with anti-Semitic graffiti was especially reprehensible and will be investigated as a hate crime. Really? Well, that'll work. Meanwhile, on the West Coast, 12 days that rocked USC. How to derail a commencement brought total disaster. The crowning of Asna Tabassum as USC's valedictorian was supposed to be a time of pride for the university that has tried to shed its old image as a playground for the privileged by bolstering academics and diversity. You can't bolster academics if you're bolstering diversity. Just putting it out there. A biomedical in selecting uh, Tabassum, I'm not trying to butcher your name, dude. I really don't. From close to 100 applicants with a near perfect GPAs and impressive extracurriculars, USC put a spotlight on a hijab wearing Muslim daughter of Indian immigrants for its highest undergraduate honor. A biomedical engineering major with a passion for social justice, all right, who minored in resistance to genocide, said she was just the kind of student USC has aimed to attract and has celebrated in ads for the university when the annual tab for those without scholarships or financial aid this fall will eclipse $95,000. Instead, the decision by President Carol Folt to rescind Tabassum's graduation speaking slot after undisclosed threats have catapulted USC into almost 2 weeks of protest and controversy. The campus gates are closed to the public. Police have made 93 arrests. Many classes were moved online. And the marquee 95,000 attendee main stage commencement ceremony has been called off. At a time when the swelling demonstrations have engulfed campuses across the nation, USC stands out. No other university has pulled its main commencement, and very few have seen as many arrests as quickly as USC. It's a complete disaster, said Viet Phong Nguyen, all right, a best-selling novelist and a university professor of English, an American Studies and Ethnicities and Comparative Literature who has taught at USC for more than 27 years. In every option, our administration has chosen the worst option. Every step along the way, our administration has been absent. Gabriel Kahn, a USC professor of journalism, had a similar view. What I have wanted to see from the beginning of this is for the university to exhibit some leadership and convene an uncomfortable conversation where differing points of view confront one another in the spirit of dialogue and learning. Okay, here's the problem with you freaking leftist asshats, is you don't want that. You leftist SOBs have no intention of having a good faith discussion about the issues. And there's a realization coming to some. It's taking a long time, but it's coming. Because this won't stop. You've indoctrinated these people into a bunch of bullshit. This is not going to stop anytime soon. You've indoctrinated the left into believing that they don't have to sit up there and be honest. They don't have to be fair. All right? They can be as outrageous as possible. And they don't have to listen to the other side. The other side has no other voice. They're evil. They can't have a good point because they're evil. You've already determined that. You already made that plain. The tactics that you guys have used are now being used by these very people that you're worried about now because they're out of control. None of your policies have ever worked. Just like this. U.S. Representative Adam Schiff's luggage was stolen in San Francisco. A guy who's advocated for this kind of bullshit forever. Thieves broke into the car of U.S. Senate candidate Adam Schiff, who was in San Francisco for an event, forcing a change of plans, specifically in his attire for one of the events. Schiff's car was in a downtown parking garage on Thursday when his luggage was stolen. In a photo provided by Schiff's PR agent, Schiff spoke at a campaign event in Burlingame in the Ristorante Rocco. I dressed more casually than his guests, who were in suits and ties. His other clothes were in that stolen luggage. Schiff, a Democrat California lying congressman, and I can prove it, right, is running for the late Senator Dianne Feinstein seat. He will face Republican Steve Garvey in November's election. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That already is a surprise, folks. What do you mean, no, man? Do you guys understand how the laws work in California? The laws in California work by who had the most votes in the primary. And Republicans have been shut out by Democrats running against Democrats in the election for decades. Why? Because when they were doing their primaries, they weren't getting enough votes to be second on the ballot. That's how deep blue California has become. It is what it is. All right, we're going to do a little different news today. A little bit of different things. Colts Chris Ballard lambasts reports on wide receiver Adonde Mitchell's character. That's just BS. On day one, the Indianapolis Colts snapped a record streak of 14 offensive picks to start by drafting the pass rusher Latu, right? In their next pick on the second day, the Colts stopped the slide of Texas wide receiver Antonio Ad, Adonde. I'm not trying to butcher your name, dude. All right. To provide the second-year quarterback Anthony Richardson with another weapon with which to grow. I read some BS that was said. I mean, it's just typical F. All right. Excuse my language of our typical league. All right. What they're referring to is there was a report that Mitchell was a problem child in listening to coaches and so forth, that he had an attitude problem. He's got all the great skills, all right? But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be real blunt. All it's going to take for this guy to ruin his career in the NFL, all it's going to take is for him to come out, have a breakout couple of games, and then his attitude is just going to go off the charts. Why? Because that's how these people are being raised. When I say these people, I'm talking about the millennials. The millennial generation is being raised this way. Or the Gen X, or whatever you want to call them. This new generation of kids coming out of school, right, have been raised to believe that everything revolves around them. That the sun rises and sets in their ass, and when you can make a lot of money for your physical skills, right, for playing football and so forth. I'm not saying that football is just all about physical ability, because it's not. But if you can make a lot of money playing a game, which is still a game, people's attitudes grow to the point where I'm untouchable. They might as well be Tony Montoya, right? And I don't mean that from the standpoint of a murdering drug dealing thug. I mean from the attitude of I'm entitled to everything. There used to be hazing rituals and so forth, and there still are in many of these things of rookies coming into the NFL where they get hazed. Now, when I say hazing, I'm not talking beatings or anything like that. Some of the stupid things that you've seen, right, in movies and so forth. I'm thinking of things like go get me coffee, go get me water, right, that kind of stuff. Hey, Nimble Horse, welcome. But unfortunately, picking this guy this high, it would have been better to let him drop to the third round. It really would have. Now, he's a talent. He's a talent. Go on to another freaking stupid story. Homicide rap for a Tesla driver on autopilot. A Tesla owner has been charged with vehicular homicide after his car, traveling in autopilot mode, slammed into a motorcyclist when he got distracted looking at his cell phone, according to Washington court records. Police say that Carl Hunter, 56, was driving his 2022 Model S last Friday afternoon when the vehicle rear-ended a motorcycle on State Route 522 near Snohomish, a city of 35 miles north of Seattle. I'm not trying to butcher that name of your city. I don't know how to pronounce that. Whatever. All right. The collision killed Jeffrey Neeson, a 28-year-old construction worker who was on his way home. When cops arrived at the crash scene, the Tesla sedan was on top of the motorcycle with the male rider laying next to the Tesla driver's rear side. A Progo camera that had been attached to the Nissan's helmet, all right, was seized by the police. During questioning, Hunter said he was driving home and looked down at his cell phone when the vehicle was rolling forward on autopilot, adding that he was distracted by his phone, he said, and the next thing he knew, there was a bang and the vehicle lurched forward as it accelerated and collided with the motorcycle in front of him. The Tesla became lodged on top of the motorcycle and was unable to be removed at the time. While Hunter admitted to having a drink at lunch, police concluded that there was not enough evidence to support a DUI vehicular homicide charge. So they just went with second degree murder. All right. Now, the question that I have with this, all right, is there are plenty of quote unquote hands free devices. If he got distracted by his cell phone, was that because it was being called and he had to hit the button on his cell phone? All right. Or did he just not take the time to hook it up to the Bluetooth to the car? Because all these Teslas have Bluetooth things for hands free driving. All these Teslas do. I have a feeling that what happened here see, this is the thing, is they're charging this guy with evidence, okay, or with murder. But I'm curious to see what else they're going to try and charge him with. And to be honest, the state, if they're going to charge him with vehicular homicide, the state's going to have a very difficult time proving it. They really are. Aside from the guy saying, "I got distracted, I looked down." All he has to say is "I don't remember what happened." All right. I heard a bang. I looked around. Car was careening. I did what I could. Right. There's going to be a lot of. It'll be interesting to see how this case plays out. It really will. More lawyer news. Harvey Weinstein, casting couch extraordinaire, rape conviction is overturned by New York's top court. The New York's highest court on Thursday threw out Harvey Weinstein's 2020 rape conviction with a ruling that shocked and disappointed women who celebrated historic gains during the Me Too movement. How are you making historic gains? All right, and left those who testified in the case bracing for a retrial against the ex-TV mogul. The court found that the trial judge unfairly allowed testimony against Weinstein based on allegations that weren't part of the case. Weinstein, 72, will remain in prison because he was convicted in Los Angeles in 2022 of another rape, but the New York ruling reopens a painful chapter in America's reckoning with sexual misconduct by powerful Democrats in an era which began in 2017 with a flood of allegations against Weinstein. Me Too advocates noted that Thursday's ruling was based on legal technicalities and not an exoneration of Weinstein's behavior, saying the original trial irrevocably moved the cultural needle on attitudes about sexual assault. Oh, really? What is the attitude about sexual assault that you think you moved the needle? Well, people think that sexual assault is wrong. People have always thought that sexual assault was wrong. Where the needle moved was in the definition and trying to redefine what a sexual assault is. He made the woman cry. That's sexual assault to you. Oh, the needle's moving. There's a pushback coming because guys have gotten tired of it. Being accused of, he made her cry, he's a bad man, he raped me, did all these things. After the fact crap. Too many times, people are being accused and convicted under very little actual evidence. That's a fact. Guys have been convicted with almost no evidence, realistic evidence of rape. The Duke lacrosse people, ring any bells? What about Mattress Girl? Ring any bells? It's far, far more common, all right, than people realize. Now, is Weinstein the guy was running a casting couch? Everybody freaking knew it. Everybody knew it. The guy's scum. But he was making a lot of money for the DNC. So they weren't ever going to do anything to prevent him from. They did everything they could to cover it up. From Politico. Tax breaks to hire local journalists approved in New York. A national first. A decades-long struggle of local media is getting a lifeline in New York. The state budget, set to be finalized Saturday, include the nation's first payroll tax credit for local news organizations in a bid to encourage new hiring amid the ongoing struggles of journalism outlets to cover their communities. Lawmakers and independent media companies praised the tax break, which will designate $30 million a year to the program, according to the Local Journalism Sustainability Act. Thriving local news industry is vital to the health of our democracy, said the sponsor of the bill, Brad Holoman Segal, all right, a Manhattan Democrat. All right. It's our responsibility to help ensure New Yorkers have access to independent and community-focused journalism. New York spends more than $8 billion a year on tax incentives. How are you spending $8 billion a year on tax incentives? You're not spending tax incentives. All right. And grants. $8 billion a year in grants. All right. To attract and retain business in the high tax state, and advocates of the measure have for years sought to extend the largesse to the newspaper and local TV industries. Look, what they want and what they want being funded here. Okay, and this is what's going to happen. Journalists are like, yay, yay, we all these little journalism degree cadets that are out there, the little Marxists, all right, the little proto-Marxists that have been taught in school. Yeah, yeah, I'm a journalist. I know how to write. I'm going to sit up there and come out, and I'm going to take it to the man, and I'm going to tell everybody what's what, and I'm going to let people know how the dirty capitalists have been doing these things. All those people are going to find out that this is how journalism dies. This is how journalism dies, folks. Oh, it's the first in the nation. This is a good thing, dumbass. Don't you understand? This is a good thing. No, no, no. What this is the state government in New York, the state of New York, is their bureaucrats are now saying, well, we're going to do this for you. You're going to repay us a bit later. In other words, you remember where truth to power, the comment of truth to power comes in there? Consider it dead in New York. Go ahead. Try to write a hit piece, right, against one of the higher ups in the state of New York and see whether or not you get that grant. This is corruption at some of the highest levels. From the Business Insider, peak boomer crisis might only get worse. A fifth of Americans 50 and older, right, a fifth of the America's 50 and up have no retirement savings, and a majority are worried that they won't have enough money. That's probably true. Still working She's still working as a part time as a therapist, but she said she's slowing down. Fatigue is a big part of getting older. She remembered that her ex father in law had a large pension when he retired, a practice that's far more uncommon these days. As the Congressional Research Service found, defined by contribution plans, this woman, see who this woman is. Let me see if I can find out the name of this. Pam Torliagu, who said at 68 that she doesn't have a big nest egg, right? On Wednesday, AARP released results of a January survey delving into retirement outlooks for Americans aged 50 and above. It found that many of them are not feeling confident in their finances. Particularly, 1 in 5 older Americans surveyed reported having no retirement savings. All right. And over half of them don't think that there'll be enough money to keep them afloat in retirement. Gee, inflation is straining their finances even more. Really? And who do you blame for that? Who do you blame for the outrageous inflation? You can start with the AARP. Just put it out there. Because the AARP is one of the people who've been happily funding every leftist cause they could get their grubby little hands on. Their grubby little meat hooks in. Every leftist freaking cause, they've been totally taken over by the Marxists. That agency has been totally taken over by the Marxists. Don't believe me? Okay, all you have to do is take a look at who they freaking threw money at. They threw money at Planned Parenthood. What does that have to do with an AARP member? Every adult in America deserves to retire with dignity and financial security, said Indira Venkatsaramalan, all right, AARP's senior vice president of research, said in a statement. Yet, far too many people lack access to retirement savings options, and this, coupled with higher prices, is making it increasingly hard for people who choose when to retire. Really, what a surprise! And yet, who did you sit up there and vote for, bitch? Who did you sit up there and funnel money into? Right into the freaking DNC and especially into the Biden campaign. And you want to stand there and go, the poor people there, poor adults. You guys made things worse for the very people that you're supposed to be representing, happily so, and you have no intention, AARP, of changing your Marxist ways because Marxism is more important to you people. Hey, Sean. We know that Americans are far more likely to save for retirement when they can do it through this kind of work-based options, right? The real thing that's happened here is pensions have gone away. Now, why did pensions go away? Seriously, why did pensions go away? There's a reason for it. And it's somewhat tied to this. Pensions have gone away. No, the number of young women to have in 40% of Japan's localities by 2050. More than 40% of Japanese municipalities are likely to see the number of their young women female residents drop by more than half in 30 years through 2050 as the country's population rapidly declines, a study by private sector experts panels showed on Wednesday. The panel on population strategy warned that 744 municipalities were deemed at risk of disappearing due to the likely sharp fall in the numbers of women in their 20s and 30s, regarded as the core generation responsible for bearing children. No shit. Now, I wonder why that's taking place. And this is the same problem that you had with pension funds. Well, part of the problem. How do you keep funding these things as the population ages, but the people who are putting money into the fund lessens at the same time? So more people need the money, all right, and fewer people are funding it. That's why they got rid of the issue. That's why a lot of companies said, to hell with pensions. We're going to do it a different way. We're going to create 401k plans for people. So you had to start putting money into 401k plans. But putting money away, putting money into a 401k plan is at odds with many of these young skulls first full of mush, all right? Because it impacts, they're losing money out of their paycheck and they want to go party on it. Like the grasshopper from Aesop's Fable. We're not teaching these people how to sit up there and save money. And we've always had a problem where 20% of the population was saying, well, I'll just live on Social Security. No shit, really? Social Security was the same kind of Ponzi scheme. And it's got the same problem. More people are going on unemployment or going on retirement than are coming into the system. Now in Japan, it's exacerbated by abortion. And that's a dirty little secret, but it's true. Too many women were getting abortions because they realized that they had a daughter and they didn't want to have a daughter grow up. Same thing happened in Korea. Korea banned ultrasounds. All right, they banned the showing of ultrasounds because too many of the Korean women, if they found out they were carrying a daughter, were opting for abortion. That's a fact. Area 51 secret base revealed as home rated as experts home was raided over the website revealing the truth. Agents confiscated Arnu's computers, several hard drives, phones, cameras, and a drone, he said. The owner of a website that allegedly gathers the truth about Area 51 had his home raided. Georg Arnu, who owns the Dreamland Resort, right, suspects that the military is testing new technology at the secret base within a base in the Nevada desert. He launched the site in 1999 and provided a forum for like minded enthusiasts to exchange theories about the activities at the U.S. Air Force facility. Some contributors on the site include former Area 51 employees, and after a recent raid of Arnu's home by federal agents, he is convinced that at least one of the users has revealed the truth about what transpires there. Area 51 has long been perceived as a location where alien technology is being tested, with Bob Lazar, a former employee, claiming to have seen extraterrestrial aircraft on display. Arnu, who brands himself an Area 51 research veteran, is one of approximately 50 residents of Rachel, Nevada, situated on the fringes of the military base. He believes that the real secrets are now concealed in a new section of Area 51 located north of an existing runways and base buildings. They have for years and years and decades of experience hiding things. Look at some of the exotic planes like Tacit Blue that was developed in total secrecy and flown in secrecy. Then all of a sudden they put on in a museum saying, "Yeah, well, we've had this for a while." Okay. Look, guys. Um, you had your home raided because you're trespassing and doing things. Now, has the Air Force been testing things out there? Yes. Okay. It's a cutting edge facility. We know that. Everyone knows that the SR-71 was first flown and produced out of there. Okay. We already know this. It's nothing new. All that's happened is this guy's house got raided. Why? Probably because he outed something that, and they're probably trying to find where he got a certain amount of information, all right, on a specifically classified program that could only be that was considered classified. Shall we do a little wander? Let's do a little wander. All right, from TMZ, let's go see what TMZ got. Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly slow dancing at Stagecoach. Okay, I don't know who either one of these people are. Starr says he wishes he had started Ozempic earlier. I don't really care. Top New York prosecutor verbally abuses a police officer. Well, this should be interesting. A New York district attorney put on a jaw-dropping display of arrogance and defiance toward a police officer after she was pulled over for speeding, and the whole confrontation was captured on video. It all started Monday, and Monroe County's top prosecutor, Sandra Dorley, all right, was clocked going 55 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone by a police officer who then attempted to stop her vehicle with his lights on and sirens on. But Dorley drove back to her home, parked inside of her garage as the officer followed her in his patrol car. The cop then confronted her and turning on his body cam. Let's read more. This sounds kind of interesting. All right. All right. Check out this video. From the get-go, Dorley gives the cop an attitude, saying that she didn't notice the officer was trying to pull her over because she was on her hands-free cell phone call. Dorley, who then calls and complains to the officer's supervisor before handing him her cell phone so he can explain himself. All right. The DA attempts to go inside her home, but the officer orders to stay put as he talks with his supervisor about what happened. Dorley becomes exacerbated and indignant, telling the officer she knows the law better than him and to get the F out of my house. In the end, Dorley asked him to write her an effing ticket because she's the one who prosecutes the offense, and so we all know what that means. Ah. Dorley later released a statement admitting that she had driven over the speed limit and was not above the law, while claiming that she respects the police. However, she did not directly apologize to the officer. Ah. That's a woman who looked an awful lot like a Karen. Okay, I'm just gonna come out right out and say this, right? Would you talk about a Karen? That is someone who looks like a Karen. All right. Let's be honest. This woman, all right. Look at it. We'll look at this picture here. When you think of Karen, this is what comes to mind. Already. This is a Karen. Swift is reportedly already worried about her romance with Kelsey. Anyway, go on to the next story, shall we? Across China, Chinese audiences embrace Brazilian cinema at a film festival. Keen to explore the world of Brazilian cinema, movie enthusiast, I'm not going to butcher your name, sir, was bursting with excitement last week as she attended the opening ceremony of the Beijing International Film Festival's Brazil's Film Week. I've never been to Latin America, but I've heard a lot about it. The movie Pictures of Ghosts with high praisings and ratings. So I deliberately chose this Brazilian movie at this year's film festival, said Daya. Right? For many Chinese viewers like Daya, the samba style works by prominent Brazilian artists from the other side of the globe are becoming increasingly intriguing. This year marks the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relationships between China and Brazil, and Beijing's International Film Festival invited Brazil as the guest country as part of the festival. A Brazilian Film Week was organized, bringing 4 outstanding Brazilian films to Chinese audiences. Okay, I can hear people now. No, man, what the hell are you doing all this crazy stuff for? I just want to point something out, folks. And that is the American film industry is dying. It's dying. It's going away. All right. It's sad, but it's the reality of the situation. The American film industry is dying. It's DOA. Just putting it out there. Okay? They're going to other countries because they can. This is one of the aspects of the internet, by the way. One of the good aspects of the internet is you no longer need to go to Hollywood to make a film. A good film, a film that people want. Now, people are chafing at the bit because these artists who used to be in total control of the narrative and slanted everything with a left-leaning slant of hatred toward anything that they disagreed with. All right, that narrative is being broken, which is a good thing. Not saying that Brazil is any less leftist. We already know what Brazil is. Just putting it out there. Final story of the day, folks. Final story. Florida golden retriever gives birth to lime green puppy. Let's check this out.
You got to come look at your screen. A puppy going viral after being born a key lime.
This isn't a golden retriever. All right. It's a green dog. A lime green puppy. Now, eventually, what it is they get stained from from some of the fluid. All right, and they will turn white over time. All right, as the color comes out, but it's dyed by liverdin, a green bile that sometimes is found in the wombs of mother dogs. Right, so the fact that she's green, it'll fade. You'll give me one what, Nimble Horse? You want a different story? Old Yella. I'll do one more story. Ghana man hugs 1,123 trees in an hour for a world record. Guinness broke a world record tree hugging. A Ghana man studying forestry in Alabama set a world record for most trees hugged in an hour when he hugged 1,123 trees at the Tuskegee National Forest. Abu Bakar Taharu, 29, became interested in nature conservation while growing up in a farming community in Tepa, Ghana. He is pursuing a master's degree in forestry at Auburn University. The record attempt required that Tahari wrap both of his arms around each tree in a close embrace without causing any damage to the trees. No tree could be hugged more than once, according to Tahiru, right, who moved quickly between each hug. Tahiru was fasting for Ramadan at the time of his record attempt, all right, which presented another challenge. Not being able to drink water throughout the attempt, all right, posed a significant challenge, especially given the physical exertion required, he told the Guinness Book of World Records. However, it also provided a helpful way as there was no need to pause for water breaks, allowing me to continue the attempt uninterrupted from start to finish. Averaging 19 trees per minute, the Haru easily surpassed the minimum requirement of 700 trees to establish the record. You guys thought I was joking when I complained about tree huggers. You guys thought I was joking. You still can read names. Oh no, I'm horrible with names. That's the way it'll always be. All right, everybody, that's all I've got for today. Hope that you enjoyed the show. I hope you have a good weekend, and I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Bye bye.